Hi, Mr. Billotti.
Hi.
We'd like to welcome you to RFA and thank you for agreeing to do this interview with us. Do you have any questions before we start?
Not at all.
Okay. Could you tell me about your life before you were enlisted, right from where and when you were born?
I was born in Leroy, New York, 1924, September the 2nd. And I moved to a little town called Hawley, and that's where I started school at 5 years old. And I stayed there till 1 year. I was in the first grade. And my father and mother moved here to Rome, New York. And I went to school at Willett Street School, which is now the Transfiguration School. And I went there until the 5th grade, and then I went over to DeWitt Clinton. And from DeWitt Clinton, I progressed to the junior high and then the senior high.
Did you graduate from RFA?
Oh, I didn't graduate. I went into the service before I graduated, and they had a ceremony here this year, and they gave us our diplomas, which I greatly appreciated.
That was very nice.
It was.
Did you enlist or were you drafted into the war?
I wasn't drafted. What happened was that the fellows I hung around with, they were about 2 years older than myself. And since they went in, they were drafted. I went up and volunteered to go with them, and I went in at 18 years old.
Where did you enlist?
Here in the city of Rome.
Right here in Rome?
Right.
Could you tell me what happened right after you enlisted? Did you go to training?
Yeah, from right after I enlisted, we got on a train and we went to Long Island, and I was stationed at Camp Upton. And they had names for the barracks that were the group, and I was in the pneumonia 4th. And then I got transferred to the frozen 5th because it was so cold. And that's where I remained until they shipped me out.
Was this during the winter?
This is cold, dead winter.
And that's why you were called the
February,
Frozen Fifth?
yes. It was around February 1st.
What was training like?
Training wasn't too bad. We did our training in Washington, D.C. We got transferred out of Camp Upton. We went to Washington, D.C., which is the capital. And we did our basic training there. And that wasn't too vigorous, but we were confined until we finished our basic training to be able to get our first leave.
How long did you train for?
We trained for 3 months.
Did you like training, or?
It was quite an experience for me. Yes, I really liked it.
I've heard that a lot of soldiers don't like training. It's very demanding physically.
Well, it is, but that's why I went in.
So you wanted that?
Yes, I did. I really did.
I read in your information sheet that jungle training left an impression on you. Could you tell me about that?
Well, jungle training was done down in Hawaii, on the island of Oahu. And what I liked about it was they used to have, we used to set up bridges to see how we would cross a body of water. And one of the bridges was a chicken wire. And the faster you run, the more steady the chicken wire was. If you slowed up, it would flip you. And the other bridge that we called was called the toggle bridge. And the toggle bridge was made of 2 ropes, and one in the middle that you stepped on and you held on with your hands with the other 2, and you commenced to cross the river that way.
Was that hard to do?
Yes, that was swaying all the time. It never stood steady.
So, did you get reprimanded if you fell off the bridge, or?
I didn't get reprimanded. I never fell off anything, but I don't think anybody got reprimanded for it. They were told to go try it again. That I know.
I read also in your information sheet that your sergeants were 90-day wonders. Could you tell me?
No, they were the lieutenants.
Oh, the lieutenants.
The lieutenants were 90-day wonders. What the lieutenants were mostly college men that were in their early 20s or late 20s, and they took them and put them into officers training school, and they became officers, and they gave them 3 months to do it, and that's why we call them 90-day wonders.
What was it like to be in Washington, D.C. during World War II?
Well, it was great. It was really great. I was stationed at Anacostia Park. It's a big, beautiful park where they show the cherries blossoms every year. I was in that park, and in that park we were on a 40-foot gun tower. And on that 40-foot gun tower we had a quad machine gun, 50 caliber, and then we also had a 40-millimeter Beaufort. And we overlooked Hickam Air Base, and our main mission was to protect the Capitol from any air infiltration of the skies above the Capitol.
Did you ever see any action there? Was there anybody
No.
ever?
No, well, the only thing that, it's not action, but it was exciting, our outfit was pretty good, and they gave us extra uniforms. We had like six sets of khaki uniforms and about 3 or 4 wool uniforms, and more shoes and shirts, because we had to be presented to the people that came here and visited. And who once visited there was de Gaulle from France, Churchill from England, and we had to be crack troops and sharp troops for them to see us. And also we were chosen to be the, and during the parades they had war bond drives, and we were in a 3rd and 4th war bond drive marching to try to raise funds from the civilians to support our cause.
So what was a daily day like at Washington, D.C.?
The daily routine is, we were pretty lucky. We were on 24 hours and off 24 hours. We had 15 men to a gun position, and half would be there the 24 hours, and the other half would be out on leave. And when you went out on leave, it was great. The Capitol, the people there treated us wonderful. There was a USO that had a Pepsi Cola company set up a place for us to go in and sleep overnight for a quarter. And they also fed us hamburgers for a nickel and Pepsi Cola for a nickel. And I thought that was great. And Sunday mornings, we were like on a main drag at 11th Street Bridge. And people would go by on a Sunday morning and leave newspapers and leave invitations for anybody that was off. They could go, they'd leave a phone number and an address, call, and they would invite us over to eat. It was great.
What kind of, when you were in the parades, did you just march or?
Oh, well, no, we didn't march because we were on our guns. In other words, we were sitting in the well, they call it the azimuth and the vertical on the 40-millimeter Beaufort. There's 2 seats on it, and one would be sitting in one, and one would be sitting in the other. Then the quad mount was put on a utility van, and in that the soldier would sit into that and simulate firing up into the sky. That's what we did.
I see. How long were you in Washington, D.C.?
18 months.
Did you choose to be an anti-aircraft gunner?
No, I was just assigned to it. In other words, when I left Camp Upton, all I was told was I was going to Washington, D.C.
Did you leave? I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. And going to Washington, D.C., but not where, what, or what we were going to do.
Did you leave right from Camp Upton?
To Washington, D.C., that is correct, yes.
So you didn't have any time to be with your family before you left?
No. We didn't get leave till I was in 9 months, and then I got my 14-day leave.
So did you go back and visit your family while you were in D.C.?
Oh, yes. While I was in Washington, D.C., I went back here to Rome, visit my folks, And also my dad came and my mother came to visit me in Washington, D.C.
So you got to see them a lot.
Well, if you call twice in the year, a lot, that's a lot.
Did you miss your family and your friends here while you were away?
Well, I did, but I was too occupied to even think about home. It was too exciting. You know, I was just a kid, 18, and I said, I'm in the capital of the United States. Can you believe that? I never been out of New York State. It was great.
So, when did you leave Washington, D.C.?
Let's see, February, I think I left approximately 18 months would be maybe June of the following year. And from Washington, D.C., we went down to Camp Pickett, Virginia, did some training there, and moved from Camp Pickett, Virginia, further south to Fort Fisher, North Carolina, and that was right on the beachfront. And we could practice our gun, and there would be a plane carrying a sleeve, just like a sleeve you see on the airports to tell you what wind direction is. Well, this airplane used to carry that sleeve, and it was towed probably by 200 feet or better behind the plane, and we were to try to hit it with our machine gun and the 40 millimeter. That was very exciting. I loved to fire the 40 millimeter. I loved it.
I don't know much about guns. Is the 40 millimeter gun a big gun?
It's a big, well, it's not really a big, but it is a big gun. The shells are probably about 20 inches long, and they may, in circumference, probably about 2 inches. And the machine gun was a 50 caliber machine gun. It's like an oversized rifle, but it spits out about 1,000 rounds per minute. You know. And so you have 4 of them on the turret, and 4 of them you'll be spitting out 4,000 rounds a minute.
So it's quite exciting to fire.
Yes, it was.
Did you ever learn how to use any other guns, like?
Oh yeah, we practiced with we carried the M1 Garand 30 caliber rifle all the time, but I also tried the 30 caliber machine gun, and I tried the 20 millimeter. I just had it in my mind that it's a 20 millimeter rifle that you had a tripod on it that you could fire on the ground. Yes, we used that too.
So most of your guns were stationary? You couldn't move them?
Oh no, you could move every one of them except the quad. You could pick up the 30 caliber and put it in your stomach, and we'd shoot at balloons that they'd release into the air, and that was to practice shooting at planes. So yeah, we did that, and then we also would have targets that were in the field, and then they would pop up. And you had to be very on your toes, so when they popped up, you better fire, or you're going to get killed. So we did that a lot.
Wow.
Yeah. Then we also had, you crawled on your stomach, and they had live ammunition firing over your head, about 18 to 24 inches off the ground, and you didn't dare raise your head. And you crawled on your stomach through mud, under barbed wire, just all training. You had to, because you would expect to do that in the field.
So training was dangerous?
Oh yes, sure it was.
Did you ever see anybody hurt during training?
No, fortunately I saw some of them get scared and just don't move, just stay right there. Just stay there and not move at all. I don't know what happened to them after we got done with that training, but they must have got some reprimand from somebody, because that's showing a yellow streak that you're afraid. Yeah.
So when did you leave the United States?
I left the United States in November of 1944, I think. Yes, November of 1944. I left from Fort Lawton in the state of Washington, and we went to Hawaii from there on the SS Matsonia, which is the queen of the luxury line. It was a beautiful ship, beautiful. And our company was assigned to staterooms while other people had to stay in hammocks on the outer decks. But we were picked for the MP duty aboard ship. And I served what they call the sunset deck. Sunset deck, we took over about 1,000 girls that were going to work for the government down through the islands. And the sunset deck was for the officers and the girls, the civilian girls. And we had a rope down the center of the deck, and no officer could fraternize with any girl. They could talk, but they couldn't even hold hands, because we would walk that line with a billy club and just tap them. It was fun. Being an enlisted man and tapping an officer's hand, it was fun.
Were you ever afraid when you were on the ship that it could possibly...
You know, I don't know if it's rumors or not when you're aboard ship, but they always say all lights out, and because they hear that there's a sub nearby. Now that sub nearby could be 500 miles away, but you would never know. So it didn't bother you to be afraid, because it's something you couldn't see.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
Where were you stationed in Hawaii?
I was stationed in Honolulu.
What was it like to be there?
Oh, I'll tell you, Waikiki Beach was great. Those native girls were pretty good looking. And you know what I found out about Honolulu that I admired was that there was no discrimination, because anybody you talked to were Portuguese, Spanish, all mixtures, Jap, Chinese, I don't care what. They were all a mixture of people. They were beautiful people. And I enjoyed that very much. I also played ball while I was down there, baseball. I played for Fort Shafter. And I used to be a shortstop. I played shortstop and I also played softball. And while I was down there, I hurt my back, and I went into the 118th General. And while I'm there, Joe Gragiola came down there to visit us. And that's a long time ago. And I also saw some of the ball players at that time. And then a big band, Artie Shaw, he was down there too. It was quite an experience. All for nothing. Free.
So it was almost like a vacation for you to be down there.
I tell you, I knew I was in the service. I didn't feel like I was, And down there, you didn't get out every day. You got out once a week. That's it. Mm-hmm. And that one week, all I did was go to the beach. I loved to lay in the sun and just swim and have some of their Mai Tais or whatever they called them, the fruit drinks. They were delicious.
So what were your duties every day while you were there?
While we were there, we did the guns. You never stopped training. We were always on the 40-millimeter guns all the time, and then we did our jungle training there. And I was stationed in Honolulu on top of the Dole Pineapple Building. I was on top of that building. And downstairs in the factory, they had two fountains. One was water, the other was pineapple juice. Needless to say, I drank pineapple juice.
I know that the attack on Pearl Harbor was a few years before you arrived, but
I still saw it all.
You went to see.
I still saw the ships that were still there. The Arizona, now that they made it a monument for that. I saw that in the water,
Mhm.
and all those sailors were still in there. And we were also stationed, my outfit was also stationed on Sand Island, which is right there at Pearl Harbor. And I was on top of the library building with our equipment. We were on top of the library building. And we saw the ships come in, especially the aircraft carriers, and we would see they had buzz bombs, Japanese use of suicide. And we saw them go right into the ship. They were in the ship yet when they pulled in there. You know. So I saw a lot of catastrophe, but I never was in any.
Mhm.
And I thank the Lord for that.
So it was hard to be there and kind of see those things going on.
Yes, it bothered you. It sure bothered you because you always said somebody had to die. They just had to die. And that's the worst part of it.
Did you have a lot of friends in the service? Did you make friends with people in your company?
Acquaintances, let's put it that way. I was mostly a loner because there are things that I didn't do. I didn't like to run to bars and drink, and most of these guys that I went in with, they were that type of person. They just went wild. And I was just an outgoing guy that liked the outdoors, the swimming, the weightlifting. I used to love all that stuff. That's all I ever did. And go to a good movie.
So really, the part of the service that you were put in was perfect for you.
Oh yeah, sure it was. Yes, it was great. I really enjoyed it. I always said that it's the best 3 years of my life. I do.
I read in your information sheet that your sergeant influenced you.
Well, you know, this fella was from Missouri, Sergeant Kaufman. He took me under his wing. He just took a good liking to me. And I even wrote home to my sister about him. I said, "Sis," I said, "you're not going to believe, but I met your dream sergeant." This guy had blonde hair, blue eyes, and he was just a great person, great person. He wanted me to be his gunner. A gunner is the one that moves the big Beaufort around. I didn't want to do that. I told him I want to get on the machine guns. I'd rather sit in a turret and fire a machine gun.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what he made me do. He taught me how to do that.
He didn't force you to...
No, it's just your choice. The only thing is that if you were a gunner, you got promoted to a corporal. If you were a machine gunner, you got promoted to a PFC, and that's it. So I chose not rank, but duty.
What's a PFC?
Private first class. I had to think.
So that's what you were?
That's all I was, private, all through my service, because I didn't like the authority. I didn't like to give authority to anybody. But I'd do anything they told me. Yeah.
Did your unit stay together the whole through the whole war?
Yes, we all stood together, and surprisingly, we didn't have too many men move out to other outfits. And we were a good mixture. There was a bunch from the Midwest, and quite a few from New York City proper, and fellows like me upstate. Yeah, so it wasn't just one big group of one person, or I should say, one section of the country. It was quite a mixture. Yes.
Do you have any, or did you have any family members who were in the service at the same time you were?
Well, I had not in my family, no, but in my cousins. Yes, I had one in the Air Force, one in the Navy, and my uncle, who I am named after, was killed in World War II on June 6th, 1944, in the invasion of Normandy. And he was only 22 years old. And his name was Dominick Billotti also. That's the only one we had casualty of. He died very young.
So it was probably hard for you.
Very hard, because I got the call while I was in Washington, D.C. to tell me about it. And like I said, this sergeant, I was still with him. He gave me 2 days off. He says, go. And I appreciated that a lot.
So how long did you stay in Hawaii?
18 more months there. Yeah, I split it 18 and 18. Well, a total of 37 months I was in, so it's 18 and a half, 18 and a half. But I was there for the whole time. I didn't leave there either until I come home. Yeah.
Did you do anything, anything that sticks out in your mind in Hawaii?
Well, I used to be a lifeguard. Doris Duke, the tobacco heiress, had an estate there. She had her own private pool built into the ocean. And whenever she came there, she came on her yacht, and the yacht would park out there on the Pacific Ocean, and some boat would pick her up and take her to her mansion. And because they swam in that pool, we had to supply lifeguards. So I was one of them over there.
So you must have known how to swim very well.
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
You liked being a lifeguard?
Well, sure. Sure, it afforded me a lot of swimming time. A lot of it.
How many people did you supervise while you were there?
Oh, I wasn't the only lifeguard. You know, there was other outfits that had a supply of lifeguards also. And I would say there'd be at least 100 to 200 servicemen swimming at any given time. Yeah.
So there's quite a few.
Oh, there's
people.
quite a few, sure. Sure there is. Yeah.
Were you discharged from the service?
Oh, yes. Sure. I got an honorable discharge from the service. And I was discharged at Fort Dix, New Jersey.
So you had come home first?
No, I never came. I
Hawaii?
came from overseas to California. In California, they gave us orders where we were going to get discharged, and then from there we took the train cross country to Fort Dix, New Jersey, and that's where I was released.
So what does it mean to get an honorable discharge?
It means that you served your country honorably and faithfully.
So it was very good to get that kind of discharge.
Oh, yes.
You were very proud.
Oh, yes. You earned it. You earned it. You really did. Because they know how your character, they knew what kind of a person you were. There are people that get discharges that are not saints, but and they all get a good discharge unless you do something radically wrong. Then you're up the creek.
What was it like to come home?
Well, I'll tell you what it was like. I couldn't wait to get home, but the first 2 nights I spent in New York City. I got discharged, I went to New York City. And my mother was wondering, where the devil is Dominick? So then I took the train home. When I pull into the door, it's 2.5 days later. And the big sign in the front door, welcome home. And when I come through the door, she said, the first thing she said, where you been? I said, I had a good time in New York before I come home. So.
Were there any parades when you came home? I know a lot of veterans talk about parades.
Gee, I can't recall any parade when I came home, but I recall they put on a show at Colonel's Park. We used to have a baseball team here called the Colonels, Rome Colonels. And at that park, they put on a show for us one evening. Boxing matches and some strong men that were real athletes, and they showed us how they got on each other's shoulders and went up to about 5 fellas high. I remember that. And they gave us a medal. Mm-hmm. Rome gave us a medal. It's over there. Yes.
I heard that you got quite a few medals, actually. Could you tell us about those?
I didn't get so many. That's it, honey. That's all I got right there.
What do they stand for?
Well, one of them is the Good Conduct Medal. The other is the Pacific Ocean areas and Hawaii. And the other is the one that Rome, New York gave me. Mm-hmm. That's it.
But those are honorable to get, right?
Oh, sure. Mm-hmm. Sure.
So what was your life like after the war?
Let's see. After the war, I bought a pool room, and I run that for 8-9 months. And I said to myself, "This is no life for me." And I packed it in. I got married, and I moved to Rochester, New York, and went to college. And I became an accountant. That was my major, but it was slow making money. So I changed to sales, and that's where I made good money. And I've been doing that all my life.
So could you use the GI Bill to get your...
I did use the GI Bill to get my education.
Mm-hmm.
Without that I couldn't afford it. That's right. They gave me, I took 2 years. And 2 years straight, meaning no vacations in the summertime, is like 3 years. And I had a family, had 2 children. And the government give you money to survive, besides your GI Bill. Mm-hmm. That was the greatest thing that ever happened to me.
So the Army was a good way for you to get your education?
Oh, very much so. I was educated in more ways than one with all the service I went through. Met a lot of nice people.
Do you want to tell us about the things you brought in?
Oh, I thought that you wanted to see them.
Oh, we do.
Because this here is a news bulletin from our outfit in here, and I've kept this here since 1945. And in here, we had 4 companies, A, B, C, and D. Well, I was in C company, and they have something about each one in here. Okay. Now, Cadge's Corner, that's the sick group that are patients. And Bugs Bunny's is B company.
Uh-huh.
And Charlie's Capers, that's us. That's C company. And in C company, I happened to be in the hospital at the time. And here they wrote about Private Dominick Billotti, Colonel Billotti, Rome, New York's adored Casanova. I'm sharpening my eye up while I'm in the hospital bed. They give you like 1/5 of a second to identify the plane. They flash it, mm-hmm. And that's how fast you got to know whether you're going to shoot at it or not. So that's what he's saying there.
Oh. So you had to identify planes?
Oh yes, If you didn't identify them, you couldn't shoot. No, you had to say that's a German, or that's a Japanese Zero, or whatever. Then you would fire, because our planes would be up there dogfighting them. And you'd only shoot your own plane. And I was also city room counselor, 3rd Ward. I'd like to show you something in here. I thought we were going to, I think that letter's in here. This is my brother John, he passed away. And this is from President Clinton. This is, see John Bly. And he passed away a couple of years now. And this is the commendations I got for being city councilor from the mayor and from all the other councilors. I used to be a bowler. I bowled in American Bowling Congress 2 or 3 times. I used to be assistant foreman of the United County Grand Jury. It's here. I've had quite an experience in life, I'll tell you. I'd like to find that one there where the general told us we were going to go to a greater job for us. I don't think I've got it in. Oh, here it is. Right here, all members of the 392nd, that's what I belong to, the 392nd. On the occasion of your leave from duty with this brigade, after 9 months of service, I was 9 months with them, I desire to express my appreciative commendation of the outstanding manner in which you accomplished your mission. You have exhibited high spirit, the military bearing, courtesy. I have been particularly impressed by initiative, so forth. I'm confident your ability to accomplish in a manner be assigned with you. Go the best wishes. We were supposed to go invade Japan.
Really?
This is, now I'll show you the date on it. The date on this is 2nd of August, 1945. By the 15th to 16th, they surrendered. You think I wasn't a happy camper?
Oh. That is so close.
And this is my New York State license for the pool room. I kept that too.
So almost being sent to Japan, that was
scary.
scary.
That was scary. I was at Schofield Barracks, just waiting for word to go. When the announcement came over the radio. You know, we all had radios. So the announcement over the radio that Japan quit. I'll tell you what one GI did. Foolish thing. He shot the radio with his rifle. He was so happy that the war was over. Then he got picked up by the MPs and put in the brig. But I heard afterwards that they let him go. Because they figured he didn't do that, you know, maliciously. He just did it because he was so happy. See, this is the picture of me in the United County Grand Jury. This is me on the 40mm Beaufort. This is me swimming off the mouth of Pearl Harbor. See, I was physical. And then I got a little unphysical. I was in the New York State Guard also. And I was also King of the Hill for bowling. So all in all, I think I've had a pretty exciting life. Coming from the shower. At least I put a towel on. The other guy used to run from there. I go, you're nuts. You absolutely nuts.
Did you write a lot of letters home to your family while you were away?
I managed to write one a week. I managed to write one a week home. And my sisters used to write to me. My dad, he never wrote to me, but when he did, I treasure that letter. I'll tell you. You want to hear from your dad? God. And he never called me anything but Sonny. Like I was a little kid all my life. But that was all right.
Was your family proud of you when you came home?
Pardon?
Was your family proud when you came home?
Oh, sure they were. Sure they were. They were all working. They were waiting for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they were waiting. They took off from work. They all came down to the house. I lived on DePrice Street at the time. And they were waiting for me. And the gentleman that picked me up at the railroad station was a friend of mine before I went in.
Mm-hmm.
And he had the cab company. He drove a cab. He drove me there for nothing. Yeah.
So it was nice coming home.
Yeah, it was. It sure was. Yeah.
So what are you doing now?
Right now, I am retired. Been retired. And I'm a school crossing guard. I just can't sit home.
Uh-huh.
You know, I got to keep active, doing something. So that's what I've been doing for the last 14 years. Yeah.
So all in all, you'd say that your Army experience was enjoyable.
Oh, yes it was. Very much so. Very much so. I wish I could live those days over again. Not go to war, but doing the same thing I was doing. That was great. Yes, it was.
Well, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
It was
Nice to meet you. And you too, dear.
Thank you.